Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is a bit of a part 2 to the part 1 where I talked about the Royal Caribbean, but I am talking about other ships and also some questions. So one question was, what about gratuities? Do you have to pay for them? The answer is no, you don't. So when I do my quotation with my service user, I ask for the gratuities to be removed. That does bring down the cost of the cruise quite a bit. Then when I get on the ship, I go straight to guest relations, which is usually on about deck 4 or 5, and I ask them to be removed. They have no problem removing, they don't get any questions asked, nothing. Then after I remove them, I can then decide who I pay and how much, and even if I want to pay them. Now if you keep them on, that's fine, but it is a given that the service user will pay the whole week's worth for 2 people, and that could be in the region of $40 a day. Now I know where I'm going, I know what dates I'm going, so I need to book some parking. Now P&O use CPS, Royal Caribbean use a PB parking, and I believe Cunard do, and Fred Olsen. Now the previous one I've been on was the Royal Caribbean, and for 8 days that cost me £150 to £165. One in November is something for 5 days in the region of £120 to £125 I paid. The parking is brilliant. You park, you cross the road, you're on the ship. Now if you're going to travel by train, my recommendation would be to book quite far in advance, and you'll probably get cheaper train tickets. Let's have a look at excursions. So you're probably booked with maybe up to a year in advance, and you will get your excursions out 9 times out of 10. Fred Olsen you won't know until 14 days prior, but I'm going away in May this year and in 2026 on the Iona, and I believe I've already got the excursions out for them. So book them in. I think it's around about 10 to 20% cheaper you get than if you book on the ship itself, and that's going to be if they've got availability. Also, when you're booking as a care worker, make sure you request that you sit next to the person you're with, because on my previous one I made a bit of a boo-boo by booking 2 tickets, and I've got my service user right at the front of the ship and me of the coach, and me right at the back. That wasn't great. So do request that you sit next to the person, and they will organise that for you. So we're getting closer to the holiday now. So the one thing I'll be thinking about is the most important thing of all is medication. So now my service users get their medication monthly, but I also know I'm going away between the end of the month and coming back like beginning of the month. So I'm not going to have that medication. So it's going to be delivered while I'm away. Speak to the GP, explain you need it to come early, or you need an extra week. They'll do that. That's not a problem. Just explain your reasonings why. Always make sure you take extra medication with you. Reason being, God forbid your service user is taken into hospital and they have a certain medication that's quite hard to get or to explain what they're on, you'll have it with you. Now the next thing is, let's say your service user is incontinent. You are not going to be able to buy those pads on that ship. Make sure you've ordered them beforehand, that their supply have arrived. I'd rather be taking way too much with me than run out halfway through the cruise. Speak to the service user's advocate beforehand to make sure you understand exactly what their budget is. Maybe order their euros in advance. You may get a better exchange rate depending how much you will be changing up. Now let's say your service user suffers from anxiety. They're in supported living, they've got their friends, or they live at home with their family. They like to keep in contact. Book Wi-Fi in advance. It's so expensive on all the ships to do it there and then. This means you can WhatsApp call their family, and it might take away some of their anxiety. Now, on all the ships, you can have room service. Now, with the breakfast, it tends to be a free breakfast. You may have to pay for like a tray service charge. Now, Royal Caribbean, for the whole room, so there's 2 of you, 5 of you, how many you're in the room, is $7.95. That means we could order pastries, we could order toast, cereal, yogurts, tea, coffee, jams, anything you needed. But you could order hot breakfast, but it was going to be a further extra charge as well. What I did do on one of the days when we went on an excursion, it was an 8-hour excursion. So I ordered room service to come for breakfast. My service user and I went for breakfast to the buffet. Then when we came back, the pastries were there. I wrapped them up in napkins. I put them in our rucksacks, took them with us. Reason being, you may have a service user at 1 o'clock who needs medication and has to have that with food or within 30 minutes of having food. And what if you're out on the coach and you've got an hour's travel left before you can get to any food? So I thought just putting that in the back of the rucksack, then, and also if that person gets hungry, I've got some food on me. Now with the dress code, you don't have to dress up. You don't have to go to celebration night. We did one of them because we had two, because we were on an 8-night trip. A 5-night, I think, is one. So no, you don't have to dress up, but you cannot use the same restaurant. You can only use the buffet, which is absolutely fine. I've done that a few times, so I've not been in the mood to dress up after being busy all day or relaxing. I've just not wanted to do it. So we've gone to the buffet, and you can just wear your jeans, your t-shirt, whatever it is you want to wear. But that is on P&O and Royal Caribbean. Now on Cunard, you can't do that. Cunard is smart attire all the time, and after 6 o'clock you can only wear long sleeved. You're not allowed to wear short sleeved. Very different class. Make sure when you book your excursions, where I made a massive error. I had one person who was in a wheelchair, and we went to Vigo, and when we got off at Vigo, oh my gosh, it was a nightmare with the wheelchair. Wasn't going to happen for us. It might have been Vigo and might have been somewhere else, but I need to look back over the pictures. Wherever it was a nightmare because everything was cobbled and this wheelchair was tilting left, right, front and back. So just maybe do some research into that, or I will post a video up next week on different excursions, what I felt were good and what weren't. Like Vigo, there was nothing there at all. You need to do an excursion there unless you just want to get off the boat and just sit by the port. That's fine. If you do, there's some restaurants and you can walk into a little town. But with a wheelchair, it was never going to happen because it was so uphill that I would have ended up rolling back down the hill. Now, I have had another question. Why is it that a balcony on Deck 6 on a Royal Caribbean is more expensive than a balcony on a P&O on Deck 6? Well, that one is pretty much because the food on a Royal Caribbean, a P&O, a Fred Olsen, a Cunard is very, very different from each other. The service you get with a P&O and a Royal Caribbean, they're much bigger ships. They can cram in so many more cabins, so they can make the rooms a lot cheaper, which does mean the ships are very, very crowded. A Cunard and a Fred Olsen was far from crowded, very spacious, but also very, very expensive. The only way I can comprehend the difference is we stayed in the Java suite on the P&O, which is the best suite you can get on P&O Iona. We stayed on the Fred Olsen owner's suite. Fred Olsen, first on the ship, greeted my husband, myself and my son with flowers, drink. There's about 5 staff there, one to take my coat, one to bring my bag. It was just absolutely different. Went on a P&O, there was no wow factor. I was greeted with a bottle of champagne, fruit basket and some chocolates. And the price of that, something in the region of £5,000 going to Norway. And on the Fred Olsen, it was something in the region of £16,000, both the same amount of time. If you choose your room, you are going to pay about £300 to £400 more. Now, I do have to choose a room for one of my service users because they're hard of walking, and it'll be very unfair for that person to be walked up and down the ship where it's so big on the Royal Caribbean. So we do book our room opposite the elevators. Now, there's another service user possibly wanting to go. So why is their room costing not far off what I paid for the room that I chose? Well, that's because they're a solo traveller. As a solo traveller, they could be having 2 people in that room. So they basically charge practically the price of 2 people. Now, I haven't put down for this person to choose a room, so that did make it a bit cheaper. I will keep updating my videos because I always say things that I forget and things I just haven't put in there that I think are quite handy for care workers to know. But if you as a care worker can help me, then that's great because I don't know everything and I'm still learning. I've taken my service user away probably on 5 cruises now, but they're all different, and I'm always open to finding out about new ships. Now I've done the whole fleet of Fred Olsen. I've done Ventura, which I don't recommend for anyone. I think it's too busy for anyone with additional needs. But that's my personal view. Does not mean it's the right view. It's just my personal one. Um, Iona is a big boat, lovely. Didn't feel there was enough on there for my service users to keep them entertained, but if you've got a child, absolutely fantastic. And there is enough on there for adults. It's just when you've gone on the Royal Caribbean, unfortunately, it has dampened my spirits for a P&O with my service users. But anything that I can help you with, or I can learn from you, I'm always grateful for. But thank you so much for watching this channel, and I'm going to post again next week with some different things. Thank you.